Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review Feast. They're hungry, your dinner.
Directed by John Gulager, starring Navi Rawat, Krista Allen, Balthazar Getty, Judah Friedlander, and Henry Rollins. Feast is about a group of people that are in a bar being attacked by monsters and they need to do everything in their will to survive. This was requested by Anthony Michelli, who won our monthly movie raffle over on Patreon. This is one that has been recommended a ton, and we've wanted to do, and we're gonna have to finish the series now. So thank you, Anthony. We appreciate it. Now let's get on to our likes.
I enjoyed the cast in this film. We had a wide variety of characters. A few of them developed way differently than I thought they would, and others were your stereotypical ones. But it was a well-rounded cast, and it made the movie a lot more fun than what it could have been, because I felt like everyone was just dying right off the bat, and I was concerned like that was the direction it was going to be, just like bang, 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 bang. We go from 12 people to like 2 people. But it held through, and it made these characters more interesting as the movie went on. Beer Guy, played by Judah Friedlander, was probably the most entertaining character in the sense that he was just the character that bad stuff kept happening to, and right when you think he's actually done for, he just pulls through, and it's just an ongoing gag that I really enjoyed.
I too enjoyed the characters. One of my favorites was Henry Rollins because he was so weird and kind of looked like a pirate. He was wearing like these pink track pants. He was just funny. There's a lot of like funny moments in this, which is great because it's one of those movies that it's not taking itself seriously whatsoever. It's monsters that are fucking everything that they possibly can with funny characters getting killed off in a variety of ways.
We definitely had a wide variety of characters. We also had some eye candy. Jenny Wade, who played Honey Pie, was the eye candy of my eye in this movie.
Tuffy, Krista Allen, she was a stunner. But I also have to agree with John because like when you have blood spraying boobs, it's just glorious. And speaking of the blood, the special effects and the monster effects are great. Like there's lots of blood, there's lots of gore, and the monsters I thought looked awesome. It's almost living in the carcass of like a buffalo or something, and when they open up, they're like a pumpkin head looking figure. And they're slimy, they're weird, and
they got claws like Ginsu knives and more teeth than a chainsaw.
This film does provide you with a variety of kills. I liked how you didn't know when they were gonna attack. That's what was nice about it. Whether they were coming through the floorboards or busting through the wall, it was the element of surprise, and then when they got you, you got to see the on-screen gore. There was great effects, and even one little eye rip that had me on the edge of my seat.
As well as like a ton of maggots. They're gonna make people cringe a little bit.
How's it look? Is it getting better?
Maybe.
I felt the film did a good job utilizing the one location setting, because this whole film really does take place in the bar. And for an hour and a half movie, you don't even realize that they are really just in one room.
And that comes down to the set design. I thought it was excellent because little parts of the bar, like every corner of the bar where somebody like put things on the windows or something, everything was really interesting and looked different. So not all the shots looked the same. So it didn't look like they were just in some kind of regular bar. And even like the attic and the basement and some of the side rooms that they do explore all just have like a ton of shit in them so that you know exactly where you are at all times, despite how chaotic it appears. Now let's move on to our dislikes. Well, for the most part, it was easy to understand where you were. Sometimes the camera was a little bit too shaky, especially because it is like a faster paced movie. There's a lot of shaky cam when it comes to the action sequences. It almost like whips around way too much in key moments, especially when there's like some gore scenes, because it's on for a couple seconds and then it flashes to something else. And I thought that was a little bit distracting.
A big aspect of this film that I think they really dropped the ball on was giving us some kind of exposition for why the monsters are there and what is actually happening. This film starts off right with a bang, which is good, but you assume that they're going to be like, okay, this is why this is happening. You actually don't get that in this film. And I actually have a big problem with the story in general, because there isn't much of a story. I know you're not watching this film for a story, but I do like something to at least keep my attention in between those parts where the monsters aren't killing.
Considering that we had one of the main characters who had previously been attacked by monsters. We had old patrons in the bar that potentially knew what was really happening.
Why don't you ask him? He's old.
Start digging.
There's zero exposition whatsoever, and that's unfortunate. And I'm sure we'll figure this out at some point because there's a second and a third, but you know, as a standalone film, it's hard to get behind 100% when you don't really know what's happening and why.
As much as I liked all of the characters in this film, I did feel, however, certain characters were not developed properly, and they went in a direction that they just threw in your face as a gag. I get the idea that this film is kind of a horror action comedy, but when you're trying to develop a character such as Tuffy, who really isn't doing much, and all of a sudden becomes the heroine just so they could throw that title gag, I just felt like with a lot of the jokes, they had the build-up, but not the right payoff.
I also felt there were a couple characters that were almost not needed. Old lady, didn't need her in the movie whatsoever, and the kid in the wheelchair. Like, neither of them did anything significant in the movie. They didn't add anything. They were basically just like crutches for other more important people to talk to and kind of like hang out with.
Well, they want to eat us, right?
Yeah.
Let's give them something to eat.
The old lady was there to make like the one-off drinking jokes, but like those jokes were low-hanging fruit. Like they didn't need to be in there. I'm not too sure why they were.
In certain characters who they did pay a lot of attention to, when they did die, it was almost as if it was off screen, which is kind of disappointing because you're invested in these characters that you either want to see them survive or you actually want to see how they die.
Well, this isn't that big. I do think the ending was not that great. It was fairly anticlimactic because you weren't sure that the movie was ending, and then the actual very end of the movie just left it completely open for a sequel. And if you didn't get a sequel, I mean we do, but if we didn't, this wouldn't be a very good standalone movie because they don't wrap anything up. You don't really know what's gonna happen. And it seemed like the movie was just kind of going the direction that you would have thought it was going a lot earlier. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. Feast is a fairly enjoyable film. It had great effects, it had a wide range of characters, and it had a fairly upbeat nature, which was fun. Unfortunately, the movie lacks proper character development for some characters, and there's zero explanation of what's actually happening. It sounds silly to say, but the monsters alone aren't gonna carry a movie. They did look cool and the gore was great, but I think this movie was average at best, to be honest. So I'm gonna give this 2.5 Tretch from Naughty by Natures out of 5.
Feast is something you could dig your teeth into if you're into a very gory and graphic movie. I liked all of the characters, and I liked how they died, and I liked that we got to see that. What I didn't like was I didn't know what was going on. And I think this film really lacks in the storytelling and the character development. And though I appreciate what they tried to do by making this more of a comedy with the gags, it just really falls flat and it's hard to get invested in if they're not going to give you any reason to care what's going on or care about what's going to happen to the characters. But you can't take away from the fact that it is a fun film and you do get a lot of deaths. So with that being said, I'm going to give this film 2.5 real life Jason Mewes out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't, there are links in the description where you can find it. And if you want the opportunity to recommend a movie for us, check out the links in the description for Patreon, join the monthly movie raffle, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond.